Reverend MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle, Lady MeeLing, America. Been known by a few names. And so I'm just going to do a quick spin because I did that. Down by myself. And it's shiny, and I like shinies. And it goes ideal in regards to what I'm going to discuss-ish. Kind of. So I went cavern diving. I got my Cavern scuba certification. I think it was either September or October of 2009. It was my last scuba certification that I got. And I had taken the course because I knew that I could use cavern gear, technically. I knew that I could without going through the certification. However, I am the way I am. And so that meant I needed to learn it. I needed to understand how that stuff went. And so I wanted the full understanding and comprehension as best as I could. And I knew that maybe I wouldn't get into cave diving because of some of the stuff that I had read in regards to cavern training. And then I learned, yeah, no, that's okay. that's just, I'm not into cave diving, no. I mean, it's cool looking. That is a whole other level of badassery that I just, I'll leave that to those who can do it and survive, because and so yeah, that's too much. That's too much for me. So despite the fact I landed where I did, I get that dichotomy, I do, but I know my limitations. And so yeah, no. that's where I draw the line. However, I will explain. I'll explain that. So, my cavern training was done in Peacock Springs 1 and Peacock Springs 2 in Florida. And I think it was called, the opening for Peacock Springs 1 or 2 or both was called like the Devil's Mouth or something like that. And so, and so anyway, so, and I had already landed there and surfaced safely. Obviously, today is the 21st of 2020 in May. And so, I had flown out with the classmates from the DFW International Airport to the Orlando airport, and I realized that my gear was not all there. Pun intended, since I had the head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, I can make fun of myself. And so, technically, right, because I went from, college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to second grade math. So yeah, you know, is what it is. And so, when landing, I realized I forgot my regulator, which is important when it comes to scuba diving. Kind of need that to breathe. And it's really important. And so I had left my gear in the red and white scuba dive bag. And so, because you keep that separate from your regular gear, especially when traveling, in order to extra safety precautions. And so I had put everything by the door to leave and be ready to go, and it didn't wind up going with me. So had driven from the airport. I mean, I didn't drive. Rich drove. But yeah, had to go check into the cabin and then go to cave excursions or cavern excursions to get, you know, a regulator. And I know I've discussed this in prior videos. The guy who owned the shop walks in and he's like, "Who is the dumb one, stupid retard, who did not bring a regulator to go scuba diving?" That would be me. Hi. How you doing? And he just gotta... Okay. And what experience do you have to go scuba diving? To forget your regulator? Well... And then I explained how I got into scuba diving because of my headaches and migraines from the head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. And how I had read I can't remember whether it was called Hebrew Medical Journal or Jewish Medical Journal, that discussed scuba diving helping headaches and migraine, or headaches, not necessarily migraines yet. And I had contacted them and all this sort of stuff. And the guy just then sat down and he's like, "Oh, okay, go ahead." It's like, okay. And so I did this, and I got my open water scuba diving certification for, you know, open water National Geographic. And he's like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, and then I did a whole bunch of other scuba courses. And he's like what? And I said, "So Patty at International Scuba in Carrollton." Yeah, she had like a 16 course, or has a 16 course certification course, and the guy goes, I go, "I did every one of them." He goes, "Every one of them?" "Yes, I did." "Where have you gone scuba diving?" "Well, the majority of my scuba diving was done in the state of Texas." He goes, "Okay, and have you ever dove in the ocean?" "Mm-hmm." "Where?" "I went to Cozumel and went scuba diving there." "Okay." "And then I went to Boca Raton." And he goes, "Okay." "And I went scuba diving there." "Okay." "And then I went to the Vandenberg." And he was like, "Oh, the Vandenberg is like newly sunk. How'd that dive go?" Ugh, let me tell you, I had such a bad scuba dive buddy. And he goes, "To be a smart ass, I get it. Better to be a smart ass than a dumbass." And so he goes, "Oh, and he was a worse scuba diving buddy than someone who forgets their regulator." Yes. Okay. Do tell. Well, you know, we discussed this, and then he made fun of me because I did all my scuba dives where I did, and he had been scuba diving for 10 years. And the guy's just like, go ahead. And then, you know, I told him I did all sorts of training, and he's like, And I'm like, yeah. And so then, you know, I told him, and I did this, and then, like, I told him we should come up with a scuba dive plan, and then he asked me what a scuba dive plan was. And he just looks at me, he's like, "Okay." I'm like, "Yeah, can you believe that? Somebody's scuba diving for 10 years and doesn't know what a scuba dive plan is?" Go ahead. And then, you know, I was told we couldn't go inside of the Vandenberg, and everybody would... And they all kind of huddled together. And the guy goes, "Wait, you wanted to go where?" "Well, you know, I did wreck diving training. I had my reel. I had my cookies." And he's just... And then what happened? And then the dive master said, "No going inside the Vandenberg." And he's just... Why do you think he said that? I don't know. Probably because it was recently sunk and they were afraid it was going to like just tip over. You just go, okay. Go ahead. Okay. So then like, that just messed up that whole dive plan. He's like, oh, that's what messed it up. Yes. I was planning the whole time to go inside the Vandenberg, and I didn't get to go inside. Okay. Well, from my plan, when? Because of making my trip. It's my first family vacation. And so then, I was going to do 2 scuba dives. I got my Boca Raton scuba dive, and then I was planning, that's why I packed my reel to go in. I had my cookies to go inside the Vandenberg. Yes! And then what did your bad scuba dive buddy do? Let me tell you. We go and drop down, and he's like, uh-huh. And then, like, he went to the line. He goes, what line? The mooring line, apparently. Apparently, he didn't know how to do a free descent. And he was like, okay, when did you realize that? When I was at the bottom of the ocean. Talk about a bad scuba diving buddy who just had to go to the mooring line because he couldn't clear his ears. I realize now. I get it. He couldn't clear his ears. That's And so I'm just standing at the bottom of the ocean, just like, I can only be down here so long, Like, maybe you should clear your ears. And you were at the bottom of the ocean. Yeah. And he didn't, get his ears cleared enough. And then there were more scuba divers. And then I couldn't find them. So then I went swimming. I don't want to get in trouble with the scuba dive police. The who? The scuba dive police. And who are the scuba? I don't know. I just didn't want to get in trouble with them. Do you think there's a scuba diver jail? Is there? I hope not. I don't want to go in scuba dive jail. Irony. And so, and then, when he realized, so and then what? Oh, I swim around the boat. Oh, the boat. Yes, the boat. Not the Vandenberg. The boat. I swim around the boat. When you went to dive the Vandenberg. Yes, I swam around the boat. The naval vessel. The boat. It's a boat. So let me show you what I did. Oh my God. What'd you do? And so he's like, so me and my buddy, we went and we mapped out this cavern and we did this and this. Oh, wow, you drew that all by yourself? Yes, we drew it together. And then, and he just went on about it. I'm like, oh, wow, that's pretty. And so we took you took your gear off? Why'd you take your gear off? Because we had to push it through. Oh, I'm not doing cave diving then. I gotta take my gear off? Oh. I'll stick with cavern diving. I want to keep my gear. I want to breathe. Well, sometimes he goes on. The other scuba divers are just, did she say she landed at the bottom of the ocean? Why is he? And the guy came. So then, after that, he's like, so here, just use this one. Okay, cool. Okay, switch it. Oh, okay. Sure. Well, I know I'm going to get cold. I don't think I have something warm enough. This is Florida. Uh-huh. It gets cold at nighttime. Oh, nighttime. Yes. At nighttime it gets cold. Why do you think it gets cold at nighttime? Or night? The sun isn't out. You have fun. Okay. You guys ready? Yeah, sure, Susan. Let's let's go scuba diving. Okay. Let's go. I'm easily excited. If you can't tell, I'm very excitable very easily. It's not, I'm literally like a puppy in certain regards, but not. And this puppy got bite. And I will. I have a thing. Anyway, so her name is not Carmen, but I call her Carmen because I can't remember her name, but I call her Carmen. And it's funny because, you know, my favorite show as a child growing up that I would watch, first in the morning, it was always Sailor Moon. If I could watch Sailor Moon. The one in the afternoon, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? I know her name is not Carmen, but I can't help it because that's the only way I can remember. And she's a Cavern instructor and tour guide. So technically, where the... Don't mind me. Now that song's in my head. Anyway, so, you know, in the car ride back to the cabin for training before going cavern diving, everyone was pretty quiet. Everyone was just, so Susan, what do you want to listen to? Country music? You like country music? Yes! Why? You're from New Jersey. Uh-huh. So, what's the big deal? Country music it is. And so, you know, go through the different aspects of the cavern training with the line. I didn't get to use. I went to the Vandenberg back in 2009. I get it's deep. It's in the abyss. And so after the cavern stuff, lines and the cookies. Irony. As a real quick side note, since I got my son into the junior SEAL scuba diving thing, when in Illinois, Mike would come back to the house in Illinois after the first or second day of him coming back, and James, James really quickly, my son, cookie, I'm gonna do a cookie, my dude. And so, you know, yeah, Oreo cookies, his thing. And not the other one, cookie. So, you know, and then there's scuba diving cookies. I'm very simple-minded. And so, ish. And so, you know, we're doing the line thing and doing the cookie thing. And so, then we go and do certain parts in the open area before the actual entrance to the cavern. And, you know, make sure getting buoyancy under control and all that sort of stuff. and then actually going in. I think it was a second dive or whatever. And so then, you know, when we got out and we were having dinner and talking and stuff like that, you know, everybody discussed their point of view and stuff like that. And then, you know, got to me and they were like, so then, what did you think? I like the bubbles. What? The bubbles. And they're, what do you mean the bubbles? The bubbles. What bubbles? The bubbles when they went along the ceiling. What do you mean? The bubbles. Bubbles go up. And the erosion that was done from the bubbles on the ceiling of the cavern. Didn't you ever look at that? Everyone just got, no. What were you looking at? The line? Well, yeah, you have your hand on around it and you go and you keep your buoyancy. You look up and look around. You looked at the bubbles. Bubbles go up. And then there's the ceiling. And the bubbles on the ceiling. On the bubbles. And there's always multiple bubbles. You really looked at it? Yes. And then the bubbles, when they went along the ceiling, it went in the grooves and then they danced across the grooves of the ceiling of the cavern. Didn't you see that? No. You should look. It's pretty. So that's what you got out of cavern diving, was looking at the ceiling, at the bubbles. Yes. I didn't want to accidentally bump my tank. So I had to look in every direction, and when I looked up, there were the bubbles along the ceiling. Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, that's what you're getting. Yeah. Didn't you look at that? No. Not at all. Should. Pretty. You know, you got the flashlight, and then the flashlight has the bubbles. Well, the flashlight doesn't have the bubbles, but it shows them. So you want to talk about how you landed at the bottom of the ocean, young lady? I did. Anything else? You heard me tell the Cavern guy? Yeah. I mean, like, there was some other stuff, but, like, yeah. Haven't you done that? No. Why not? Oh my God. What? No, we haven't landed at the bottom of the ocean next to, what do you call it? A boat. So a bunch of them started laughing. Just a boat. just the Vandenberg is just a boat. It is. I mean, I don't know if it's the boat that I swam around, but it's a boat. It's a boat. Why do you call it a boat? Well, it's shaped like a boat. It goes in the water like a boat. I mean, it's not supposed to go to the bottom of the ocean unless you make it do that. I haven't done that since I was a child in the bathtub, you know, just keeping the boat down at the bottom and then, like, holding the floating boat underneath my knee to keep it there when playing with, like, other stuff. Didn't you do that? No. It's still a boat. That's what it is. Oh, okay, that's what you're... Well, is it not a called the Vandenberg. Well, each boat has their own name. Whatever, it's a boat. Yeah. Okay. Well, is it a boat or is it not a boat? I mean, is it shaped like a boat? Yes. Okay. And it did do boat stuff before it was at the bottom of the ocean. Yes. So it floated like a boat before it went to the bottom of the ocean. Yes, it's still in the same shape as that boat. Yes. So it's still a boat. Yes. Yes. Technically, it's still a boat. But it's a naval vessel. Okay, well, you know, it's still a boat. You can call it whatever you want, you know, it's still a boat. I mean, you know, boats weren't always that big. They started out little, and then they became bigger, and they have different types of boats. But they're still boats. There are different sized boats. Yes, I know there are different sized boats. There's the paddle boat, and there's the Dori boat, and there's the speedboat, and then in the cargo, and oh yeah, yeah. But they're all still boats. They're in the boats. Yes. Am I wrong? They're not still boats? No, they're still boats. But there's different types of boats. Yes, I listed a whole bunch. I gave a whole bunch more at that time. And so, you know, it's still boats. Goes on top of the ocean until you sink it. But it's still a boat. Yep. That one is apparently named Vandenberg. Yeah, whatever. There's a boat that I swam around. I don't know what it's called. You went around the Vandenberg. Well, whatever it is, you know. I mean, I just landed at the bottom of the ocean. I swam around whatever boat I was next to at the bottom of the ocean. Whatever its name was. I don't remember seeing the name Vandenberg when I was swimming around it, though. What do you mean? Because, you know, well, I wasn't looking for a name tag. Apparently it does have one. At least the Vandenberg. And, you know, I saw whatever boat it was that I swam around. Okay. Sure. Whatever boat you swam around. Yep. I don't remember it being called the Vandenberg, though. I don't remember seeing sign that said Vandenberg on the one that I swam around. And then we just started talking about other stuff. However, when I went scuba diving at the Vandenberg, as well as Boca, as well as Cozumel, that was all the same scuba gear. I didn't actually scuba dive with the Cavern gear in the ocean. I only scuba dove with the Cavern gear in the Cavern, and then in Terrell. During the underwater pumpkin carving contest, as well as in Garland for the last part of my Cavern scuba certification. And then Terrell again for the polar bear scuba dive. And by then, my scuba diving had really quickly slowed down, essentially. Not because of the certification aspects, because I could tell that I needed to do that for the, not just my safety, not just the safety of my son and my daughter, but even the safety of all the scuba divers and EMS guys. Because I figured if something would have occurred, because I felt it when I had done the, and at first I thought it was because I was having an allergic reaction to the fresh pumpkin in the water, because I'm allergic to fresh fruits and vegetables, and I had to think about underwater pumpkin carving and having an allergic reaction to that, because, you know, that's probably a cognitive issue there. Easily, probably would be easily able to be figured that'd be a cognitive issue to not put that math together. However, I thought that was the reason, though I had decided to kind of hold back a little bit, and then during the polar bear scuba dive, and that particular dive, it was one of those, no, that is the reason why I need to, because it's for the safety of my son and my daughter, to make sure I could get back, because I have this thing where I want to make as many safe descents as ascents and ascents as descents. Like, it doesn't matter, like, I want to make sure that anytime I scuba dive, it is safe. And so I needed to make sure that I'd be able to get back to my son and my daughter, and at the same time of any of the scuba divers with. And I was not able to feel that when scuba diving in the same way, and it was obviously being in Clear Springs Scuba Park, I didn't feel that I could each time. It was one of those, I felt that there was stuff that would cause problems for the scuba divers, and they wouldn't be able to explain things to the emergency medical services. And so it was one of those, I'm not willing to put them at risk at all. So I took a few steps back, because it was just one of those, nope, I can't do that and be okay with that, not safely. And so I have this thing about safe scuba dives, and so not gonna put everybody at risk like that. And so that was literally my last scuba dive, was the polar bear dive. I hadn't scuba dove since, because of the safety issues that I couldn't explain what I was feeling. Nobody had asked me as far as what was going on at that time. And so it was one of those, okay, well, since nobody's asking me anything, you know, as far as that, I guess it's not that big of a deal, despite certain reactions in regards to when cavern diving. And so I will just not really talk about it, because obviously it's not that big of a deal. At least that's the impression that I got, that it wasn't that big of a deal, because nobody asked me, not past that. I was just one of those, all right, well, what else am I supposed to think? I understood that it was a deep dive. I mean, I did go deep dive. I got the training for that. Nonetheless, it was just one of those, it didn't seem to be that big of a deal to anybody. And since I was already dealing with what I was dealing with, as far as I had plenty of scuba divers that had their opinions as far as why I got into scuba diving. And then the judgment from that. Not just that, but then even my own biological family in that regard. And then my ex-in-laws as well. And I was like, so you're going to judge me for scuba diving, really? That's what you're going to judge me over. Okay. Just saying. But yeah. Since nobody really said anything, it was one of those, well, I guess it's not that big of a deal. It's not that important. Because that's what I was shown. And with the way I was raised, both before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, as well as after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, by the way, I was raised, treated however you want to put it. I learned very quickly, unless you tell me that it's important, I'm not going to view it as such. Because I've learned that, unless and it's not attention seeking. Please don't make that mistake at all. That would be insulting by a lot. In regards to not having that sort of stuff, why would I view that way? Why would I view that as important ever? My children have always been important to me. My son and my daughter have always been important to me. My actions prove that, not just my words, whether verbally spoken or typed out. So, and, family, friends, all that sort of stuff, tried to show that. That is how it goes. And so, after each person can only be told so many times you're not important before you start believing it. Or you're not as important as this, or your stuff isn't as important as that, or it's just your typical stuff, or you're just being dramatic or over dramatic, or you're doing this or you're doing that. How many people in each area that I was involved in, whichever part of the state of Texas, in whichever lifestyle, whether scuba diving lifestyle, whether BDSM, not so much LGBTQP, I will acknowledge that, or whether swinger lifestyle. Oh, you're over dramatic. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're that. You're doing this. You're doing that wrong. You're doing this wrong. You're doing that wrong. And then being blamed continuously while dealing with everything I was dealing with. And as I watched multiple people get the help that they needed for far less, not to be rude, however, to find out that there were lots of people there for Discordia or Erica when she got in trouble for stealing garden gnomes out of people's property. That was considered more important than my children. Her theft and damage to other people's stuff was considered more important. That's literally what I was told, as well as shown. Other individuals who, for example, Trish or Measure or whatever, she had how many people around her that were willing to jump at the chance to help her, batted her pretty little eyes and whatever. Why would I think? What? say. So. Is what it is. Right? At least, that's what I've been shown. That's what I've been told. So many more times than I've ever been told. Positive stuff. To my face. Or see the results of in that regard. So, yep. Is what it is, though I doubt that I'm the only one. Again. However, is what it is in that regard. So, I'm tired of being taken advantage of. I'm sure that's been figured out. Among a few other things. Yeah. And then the false accusations. Obviously, I wouldn't have been able to take that picture if I wasn't where I was. Same thing when it comes to the other pictures I've taken. And videos.